Welcome to GlobBrief. Today, we examine the rapidly developing situation between the United States and Venezuela, a crisis shaped by geopolitics, energy resources, and strong international and domestic reactions. This report focuses on what is confirmed, what is claimed, and how governments and citizens around the world are responding. Recent days have seen heightened tensions between Washington and Caracas following U.S. military and political actions that American officials describe as necessary for national security. Venezuelan authorities and several international leaders, however, have condemned these actions as aggression against a sovereign state. While details continue to emerge, the situation has triggered emergency meetings, diplomatic statements, and protests across multiple countries. To understand why Venezuela holds such strategic importance, it is essential to look at its natural resources. Venezuela possesses the largest proven oil reserves in the world, estimated at over 300 billion barrels, primarily located in the Orinoco Belt. This places Venezuela ahead of Saudi Arabia and Iran in total reserves. Despite this, years of economic mismanagement, corruption, infrastructure decay, and international sanctions have reduced oil production dramatically. Analysts widely agree that control, access, or influence over Venezuela's energy sector has long been a key geopolitical interest for foreign powers, including the United States. President Donald Trump has historically taken a hard-line approach toward Venezuela, using sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and strong rhetoric. Following the latest developments, Trump stated that U.S. involvement was aimed at restoring order and addressing criminal networks. However, critics argue that his policy reflects a broader interventionist strategy, with some analysts and political opponents questioning whether oil and strategic dominance are underlying motivations. Legal experts have also raised concerns, pointing out that military actions without clear congressional authorization may violate both U.S. constitutional principles and international law. In the United States, criticism has not been limited to federal lawmakers. Zohran Mamdani, a prominent New York political figure, publicly condemned the U.S. action, calling it an act of war and a form of forced regime change. Mamdani warned that attacking a sovereign nation sets a dangerous global precedent and undermines international law. He also highlighted the potential consequences for Venezuelan communities living in New York, urging U.S. leadership to pursue diplomacy instead of escalation. Beyond political offices, opposition has also emerged from American citizens. Protests and demonstrations have been reported in several U.S. cities, where activists and civil rights groups accuse the Trump administration of overreach and ignoring democratic safeguards. Many Americans argue that foreign military actions should not be decided unilaterally, and fear that such moves could drag the U.S. into prolonged conflict while damaging its global credibility. Internationally, reactions have been sharply divided. Several Latin American leaders, along with governments in Europe, China, and the Middle East, have condemned U.S. actions as violations of sovereignty. Calls for restraint and emergency diplomatic talks have come from the United Nations and regional organizations. Meanwhile, a smaller number of governments have expressed cautious support, framing the situation as an opportunity for political change in Venezuela. As of now, the situation remains fluid. Venezuela faces political uncertainty, while the United States confronts legal challenges, domestic opposition, and diplomatic pressure. Experts warn that any attempt to reshape Venezuela's political or energy systems will be complex, risky, and potentially destabilizing for the entire region. In summary, the U.S.-Venezuela crisis is not just about one event. It reflects long-standing struggles over power, resources, and international law. With Venezuela's vast oil reserves at stake and public opposition growing both at home and abroad, the world is watching closely to see whether confrontation or diplomacy will define the next chapter. This has been GlobBrief, one global event clearly explained.